Welcome. I have dueling jams going on. Hold on, let's see. Hi from across the river. Hey, dog. Welcome. Welcome, 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 welcome. This is the new library. It's mind-blowing. From the mod wheel, you can't even see the library. Oh my gosh. There it is. Welcome. My name's John Lemcool. You're watching a video from pluginguru.com. This is a new library that I have just put the finishing touches on yesterday, and my goodness, let's see, where would I go to find what I want to show you? I wanted to show you, let's do it from the website. So if we go to pluginguru.com, let's see, I don't have my microphone aimed in the right spot yet. Let's see, we gotta go log out. And then here is the new library, Urban RMX. This is a library that first started with Break Tweaker. I did a live stream last night. So I'm getting better in the roll of things and everything like that. Hi, Philip. I saw your comment about the timing, and I totally understand that. I can do live streams at different hours for different customers, because for some people, middle of the afternoon in America is tough to get into watching a live stream, whereas nighttime is easier because you're in your studio working and stuff. So that's why I'm doing 2 live streams, just to make sure I show this thing to as many people. Hey, Stella. Stella already has the library. Thank you for your support, my friend. A number of you do, I'm sure. But I'm going to be going through the library. I'm going to explain. I was supposed to make a graphic, and I didn't have time to make an image to show off basically the flow, because I want to just make sure people understand there's 5 different multis for each one of these grooves, and they're important because they're usable in different ways for different applications. And so explaining that, I think, will help people better understand, oh, I want to use this because I would use it like this, and it'd be different for somebody doing it one way versus somebody else doing it another way. It's that type of a flexible library that has lots of options available to it. In a nutshell, let's see if we come over here. Oh, and that's not supposed to be showing that because I'm on over here. So this is a library with 212 multis and 543 patches. It's quite packed, and what it has to offer is something kind of fun. A lot of songs need a place to start. When I lived in LA, I used to work with a number of, big artists, and they would sit with a little drum machine just playing a pattern, and then they'd go over to their piano and write. And so the idea was, first, Omnisphere doesn't have drum samples in it, but it can import samples. And so this is the 3rd library that I have imported drum samples. Well, actually, there's more than that, because Percussa does drums. Airwave Volume 2 has drums. We have done drums before. So to start with, we took these grooves that we first did in Break Tweaker, and we imported the 6 samples. And then we would map it across the keyboard, so when you play a note, and these are not loops, it's playing an arpeggiator for each of the sounds. So I can slow it down. If I want, I could go to components of this loop, this is what you might find, you know, if you bought a loop library, but here I could go to the bass, I could turn on distortion. Because it's separate components, right? I could make it as rude as I want. I could go to the snare, which is right here, which is just a clap. I could turn on layer B, and I did this when I made the remixes, and I could go to the library right here, go to the RMX library, and like go to the snares, and let's choose like a different snare to add to it. So they're in this really flexible clay kind of a layout that you can work with. Now, after the loop where you play one note and it plays across the keyboard, I took it to what's called a groove. And this is something you would find in the other OMG Volume 1 and Volume 2 libraries for Omnisphere, where low C on your keyboard, and let me do this when I still have it up and running here. Here is Serum. He's going to be just ghosting so I can have a keyboard that you can see, right? And then up here. So as I move the mod wheel, you'll see a mod wheel move on Serum because Omnisphere doesn't have a keyboard that will show me that. But you can see the keys when I play the keys here in Omnisphere. But when I play low C, that triggers, turn on the latch mode. This latch mode that you can get to either on the latch page, or you can right click and see that latch mode is turned on. And what that means is it will stay on when you play a note until you hit it again to turn it off. And I just kind of figured out it's not that you could layer sounds, run them through the arpeggiator, have a note on that would start playing, and it could be a drum pattern. So that's the idea of the drum machine. And then above that, here's the bass, the synth. So you could do songs. These are much simpler, just the samples of the stock library. There's additional effects added and so forth. But I wanted to keep them pure. So you had the pure thing. If you wanted, you could go to Break Tweaker. You could play 12 a.m. so you could hear what it sounds like in Break Tweaker. And its normal tempo is 70. So if I go up here to 70, and I go to the groove, it's A flats. It sounds better because there's a little bit of processing, a little compression to sounds, EQ. You can treat the sounds independently with effects and so forth in Omnisphere that you can't do in Break Tweaker. So that makes it sound a little better. And I wanted to make the grooves true to the Break Tweaker library. So when you go through all of the ones that say groove, if you go to angle of view and you call up angle of view in Break Tweaker, it sounds like this. Right? If I go up to 90 beats per minute, I made sure oh, it's A flat. But now I can jam with it. Now, bum, bum, bum. There it is. But I can jam with it. But I wanted to have it pretty true to the Break Tweaker library. But then I started thinking, you know, that's not enough. If I really want to make this something that you guys are going to want to play with, I should take it a step further. And that's where the Groove RMX and why it's called RMX. Because I've taken this from that to for every groove. mod wheel lets you take from like a verse thing, you know. To bring the mod wheel up. Oh, I lost it. There, now you can see it. It's just really fun, creative, similar in vibe to the original in some cases. In other cases, it's a completely different beast all together. For example, let's just go to Yeah Boy. Here's the groove for Yeah Boy. We go Yeah Boy, and we play it from Break Tweaker. It sounds right. And I can go over here to the groove. This is going to sound like that. So it's E flat. And there's a whistle up here. I don't have 3 hands to play. Right? But you go to the Groove RMX, and this is like maybe the coolest one in the whole library. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. And you can... Totally different. As you move the mod wheel up, I mean, it's just crazy. This sound right here is just cool. So that's using 2 different synth sounds to make the right hand, and then the bass, and then on top of that a groove. Right? Now, I had a number of people, and I've been thinking about this a lot too, that have been talking about how to use this. And I wanted to get to the ultimate levels of usability. So I came up with one more multi-number 5 for each of these, and that's the map. An RMX map keeps the really cool, right? But if I transpose my keyboard down an octave, I have the drum sounds with the effects, everything tweaked. I mean, the amount of work put into getting the drums to sound like this is hours and hours. And now I can sequence anything. So whatever I sequence in my sequencer, I could say, let's start one more time and make a new groove. Okay. I don't need the whole measure thing. Now I have a groove using those sounds. So I could go crazy with whatever grooves I want. A lot of the guys that were talking to me, we had doing film, and they needed to have things changed during a score. They needed to have just a breakdown with just things that you can't do as easily when it's just a repeating loop. So those versions, there's 5 versions to every one of 40 multis. There's 45 total. There's 5 that I did not actually do this whole thing to. There's only 3 versions of those, like Vibes. This is one, oh, actually Vibes I did. Whereas like one, for example, that I didn't do. If we get here to like Stars. No, I did Stars. Squid is one I didn't do. So Squid has a loop. You can hear what it sounds like. I didn't do one to this. I might actually, I'm thinking of having a competition where you guys take a multi and I'll make it a free multi that everybody gets to download and see what people come up with for their own versions of a multi. What can you do to make your own remix? So I'm leaving to go out of town after this live stream, but when I come back, I think early next week, I'm going to try to put something like that together. That'd be really fun to see what people come up with. So there's 40 of these. There's so many, it would take hours and hours, and I don't have hours and hours. I got to leave right at 1 o'clock. So I'm going to be leaving right on time for this one. I haven't even said hi to the stream. How are you guys doing? Everybody good over there? Good. Hope everybody's doing good. All right, so let me show you some more of these just real quickly. The other thing that's important to point out is every patch that you're hearing in all of these multis, Golden came out so nice. Here's the original. Let's just play the loop. It's like, where would Skippy take this? How about, let's see, okay, right here. Speed it up. Very different. I took all the way. I mean, pitch bend up makes the kick go away, but I also have it on the module. Does that up? That's pitch bend. See pitch bend? Pitch bend down. Sick breakdown. So you can truly do insane stuff. So that's one multi. Each of these patches are available as a separate patch. There's over 500 bloody patches in this library. It's just crazy. And so you can take, build your own if you want. In fact, I designed this in a way so that if you go to the grooves, we saved all of these out as individual patches too. They're in there, but they don't have the BPM stuff. But everything that is in the Groove RMXs is saved with the ARP on, with all the BPM stuff happening. So it's basically you have this drum groove multis, and then you have two different libraries of patches all in one library. It's insane. It's a crazy, I cannot even tell you how many hours of sleep in the last week I managed to get, or my assistant Taylor. Massive shout outs to Taylor. We would not be here looking at this if not for him staying up all night for like the last 3 nights working with me on this. So here's just patches. I'm gonna just play through patches for a minute. All these amazing sub basses. Just basses for miles. Then you get to the BPM stuff and it gets even more insane. Look at so many basses. Everything's saved out from every multi. This is a cool one because it's a combination bass and guitar. And the mod wheel, this was used in Vibes. So I'm going to show you Vibes real quick. This is one of my favorites. I mean, I love so many of these. This one came out really cool. So Vibes, We're going to bounce all over the place because that's how we roll. Vibes, the original loop sounds at 78. Just so you know, on the loop, I put the tempo. Right here, that number you see at the end of the loop is what the tempo of the original is. So if you set this to 70. Mod wheel. Okay, so I took this from here. Let's go to the remix. Check this out. This is so fun. Same tempo. I'm not going to change the tempo, but now it's. Speed it up. Hi-hats come in with a little mod wheel. Snare. I love that vibe though. Pitch bend up takes a kick out. Pitch bend down takes a snare out. So they go all over the place. These were so fun to make because I didn't listen to music. I wasn't trying to copy the latest 20-something pop band. I just went to stuff that like sounded really cool. I could hear modern production using this stuff, but not trying to sound like somebody else. I mean, there's enough libraries that we've done that. Radio Ready and stuff like that does that. I really enjoyed starting with the groove and then programming. I've done this with Omnipulse 2 was made this way, and Radio Ready, where I'm building the sounds to work and interlock together. Let me show you an example of that. Let's do something like, let's see, is stars? I'm gonna find one. I'm gonna play a couple. Here's an example. I want to point out that a couple big tricks that really give this library cool personality. One of them being pitch EGs all over the place, especially on drums. Hear that little additional attack that's added to the sound. That's not the best example, but there's other examples where the pitch EG is just really important to the sound. Let me see. Stranger Things, I didn't make a remix for. Streetcar came out really cool. Let me see. I can't remember all the details of all these. This one where there's hidden hi-hats. This is using the bark bass, I believe, the bark cello. It's a cello, bark cello. And then a sub. So without the sub, So it was really fun to build the elements and the components and the patches up that equal ending. Oh, this is a really cool one. So here's the loop, so you can hear what's originally supposed to sound like at 80 beats per minute. All right, where'd we take it? Check this out. This is cool. Speed it up. This is cool because it's using some granular. Is it granular? What did I do to this? This vocal sound right here on 6. Yeah, using granular to playback. Isn't that cool? So this is using granular with an LFO sweeping through it. We can take a look at the LFO here. Show. Because there's thousands of phrases in Omnisphere. And so if you go in here, there's so many that you can be playing with to turn into really cool vocal snippets. I did it in a couple other the multis throughout here that have some really cool, fun little snippets and pieces of things in experimental ways used. This isn't one of them here, but I love this one too. So all these elements, if you just want to use oh, it works for all the bass. And the drums are good too. So anyway. If you guys have questions, shoot them up. That's it. I'm sold. Thank you, guys. I try to make stuff that people really are going to want. I don't, there are so many libraries. I don't know if you realize this is library 28 that I have created for Omnisphere. So it was really, truly in this library an example and a case of all the experience and knowledge from all the libraries. I used all my tricks in this one library, and it's one where I haven't done this in a while, but the ESC team, they were working on that tribute library they released. Tim Dale, we released a library. So while they were doing those, I've been working on this in the background for months. And so, but it came, I put a date in, you put the day in the sand that you want to release. And I said, this is the day I want to release this. And then I decided to like triple my workload by adding all these RMXs to everything. And so, yeah, it's a long time since FM8. You're right, my friend. My goodness, that's true. Long time ago. Very long. So it's a culmination of everything I've done to date, and it's just me. It's not one where, the next library violins, I'm getting everybody involved again. All of you guys get to make patches and send them in. It's going to be really, really fun. So before I did that, I wanted to have it where I put just one more, I wanted to do a solo record this year. I really was trying to aim that way. And I think this is my solo record because each one of these is a song in itself. And it's really fun to kind of pass it off to you guys and see what you do with it. There's just so much here that is just incredibly fun to play with. Smooth Psycho. Let's check out this one here. This is 72 beats per minute. So let's slow it down, not to 48, but 72. And I have to be 72 on this one in particular because it's actually got a sample. That sample has got the doo-doo. So that's the loop. Then I took this and I moved the sample start later, so I just had the, and then I delayed the hits and stuff. And in last night's live stream, I want to point out, I had mentioned I'd found a couple errors, including this was one of the multis that had an error. I stayed up till 3 last night, fixing all the errors and uploading a new version. So when you download this, everything's fixed. It's all nicely sealed up, and all the things that I found, I went through every patch one more time and fixed everything. So it's, I'm gonna speed it up. And then the mod wheel. But this groove is lovely. And I got that side stick. This is from the library, but I've tweeted it. Check this out. So if you go here and, oh, let's just find the way it is. What helps is it's a cheap reverb. The easy verb was the magic reverb. With high frequency dampening way up. Anyway, came out lovely. Sometimes I'm sad. Here's the loop, 76 beats per minute. Right? So if we go to the Groove RMX right here, oh. This is another one using a vocal snippet. This is the boys choir snippet. I'm gonna speed up a little bit. Now, it's a split with a melody. Cool. Mod wheel brings up a big, nice, complex chord. Octaves on the voice. And if you go to this sample, check this out. It's the boys choir put through all sorts of torture. Take these things off. It's a lot smoother. Turn off wave shaping. And then the samples start. But he holds that last note and he stays on it. So I just, and then dirtied it up to sound like a pop sample. Yeah. Remember, this is all clay for you guys to screw up and work with. And so you can go to the mixer page. If the snare is not right, I want the clap to be a little bit lower in pitch. Go here to chorus. If I want to make it more like a hip thing, bring up the resonance. And you can play it in the mix of everything else in real time. Now it's really loud, so let's turn this down. So, fun stuff. It was a lot of experimenting to say, well, what if you do this to it? I mean, you know, everyone's different. I wanted to be kind of in this format, but I wanted each one to be different in that format. So you have to explore it. That's what's kind of fun is this is kind of like each one's a magic box. You can spend a lot of time discovering, exploring. That's the OMG experience. It's like, oh my gosh, what the heck did you do? Here's record sales. That's the loop. That's how it sounds from Break Tweaker. Here's the remix. Isn't that cool? And again, it's tempo based, so you can speed it up, slow it down. Kill the snares. And again, if you want, you can just go to the RMX map. And now whatever your sequence has, because the same notes, for the most part, the same notes for where the kick, snare, and hats are everywhere in all the RMX maps. So every time you go to an RMX map and call it up and hit play, it should play. And if you want, you go, okay, well, what did you originally do? Go to Groove RMX, hit play, and lots of cool, tricky programming. So there's so much hidden. I almost don't want to show it because part of the fun of this is going into these and saying, okay, so here's the original. Play the loop. This is one where the loop was modeled after a pop song that the Weekend did. Kind of got that kind of feel to it. But you go to the RMX version and it's totally different. In fact, it's very different. One note with the bass. I love this one. I forgot how much I love this one. Right hand, kind of the strings with weird stuff. just, God, just everybody go away. Leave me alone. I want to jam for the next couple of hours. That's the idea. That's where it's all about. So let me play a couple others. Here's now this is one of those that's kind of tricky. You could do more fasty like this type of stuff, you know. But this also works really cool slow. And it gets sneaky, it gets darker and more sinister because you get to hear more of the distorted, kind of messed up stuff going on. This could be about space too, you know? A real fun trick, just bring up the mod wheel on snares. Okay, so there's a lot. Hopefully you guys see that I had a really good time. Need Barry White. All right, if you have questions, pop them up. Thank you, Ivar. Appreciate that. There's so much to play with. There's 40 different of these that have 5 versions to them. So you can go to something like whoa, dude. And this is definitely one that's very cool. Right? This is the original one, how it sounds from Break Tweaker. Although, again, listen to the difference in sound quality. Let's go to like, whoa, right here. Here, I'll play it in Break Tweaker. Hear how it sounds flat, squish. It's nice. It has a vibe to it, but because it's separate samples and all the effects and stuff in Omnisphere, you can take it much farther. And then, here we go into insanity, fun stuff. This has like really cool pulsy sound with the filter open, so when it starts, you don't hear it, and then it slowly gets stronger. So listen to this. You don't really hear it. Now you start to hear it. So, yay! Now I want to point out a couple things. When you're working with the library, you will notice there's a delay. If you're playing it and you haven't played a drum groove yet, and you're just playing up on the keys, if I have it so you can see, you'll see that I'm playing keys and they're not playing in real time like snappy. That's because they're quantized. In order for most all of these to work so that I can play something. I have quantizing on input turned on for everything. So you can see if you go to the live button and you hit latch, this will light up and show you that this little yellow, the notes right here in the corner, if I was to, let's say, take the bass and not trigger it, and let's not trigger one of the elements in the right hand, but trigger the other two. There's 3 sounds used to make the right hand. It will now sound really bad. It's not tight in timing. And now I'm going to play the drum groove. It's all over the place. So the rule is, if you, there's 2 ways to do it. You can turn trigger off for everything, and then you're going to sequence it and quantize it in your sequencer. So you would go here and turn this off, and now I can play real time. It's nice and fast and flighty. And if I play a little out of time, it sounds bad. So you need to quantize the parts after you play it in. But by default, all of these, if you go to any of these and you call them up, you'll notice for the most part, I locked down the quantize to because otherwise it just doesn't sound good. If some parts are free to be on their own and others are set to be triggered on input timing. But again, you can turn it off just by going here and say trigger immediate. You can also do it here. If you go to stack, you can right click, and here you have option connection right here to both turning on and off latch and what the trigger mode is. So you could go through each one and say, change it to trigger immediate here. And it has the same effect if you right click on all these as if you're on the live page and you clicked right here to change it. So but now I can play anything I want, anytime I want. But it's harder to be in time. Okay, just so you know, and if you prefer one way or another, if you set this to off and you went save multi and maybe call it RMX T or something, give it a name so that you would save it so you knew that that meant that you turned the trigger modes off. You could do that if you wanted to do it before you play it live. Because if you don't do, just so you know, that's how the library is set up and how it's set so that when you call it up and play it, you sound good. If you don't, you're not. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, let's do this so I can see what's going on. All right, so let's speed this up. But see, sometimes if your timing is off, even with quantize, it'll be off, but now it's off by a 16th note, which is weird sometimes. All right, a couple others. Get It was fun. All sorts of different production styles. Here the snares kind of in your face. The kick drum, It's not a big kick drum. It's actually just emphasizing a certain frequency. And I believe this is one where I'm using the high pass filter. And this is, I'm going to make a separate video on this trick. But if you want to use this high pass filter, it's one of the best kept secrets in Omnisphere. Is this guy right here for when you're layering lots of things. And you can do a cool thing where if I bring this down, it's now in the way of my bass, and my bass is this big kind of sub, and I don't want it to be in that space. It's hard to tell because this isn't by hertz or anything. It's a value here, right? You see these values? If you bring up the resonance, you can actually listen. Like, I don't want to go too much below that. And then bring down the resonance. And now I've limited it at that point. And if you're really getting picky in the studio, what we do a lot of times is if we know the key of the song. Say we're playing in G minor, right? So I would play this kick. It's below G. There's G, 291. Just a little bit above that. Now I'm not on that note at all. And now that low G rings really nice on the bass with no interference. I've been in the studio where we've high pass filter tuned the kick drum to different notes as the chords change. Because we wanted, when we went to the lower notes, to have the kick drum have a little bit more presence. So that way there's always this relationship between where the kick is and where the bass is. And it shifts through the track. Big records, big records. We do stuff like that sometimes. So yeah, there's all sorts of production tricks you can do. Any questions? I'm about to sign off. I'm on my way to Seattle with my girlfriend to see Peter Frampton and the Steve Miller Band. I mean, it's two bands you have to see while they're alive, and they still have amazing voices. And so it'll be really fun to get a chance to see some live music, sit out on a big field in Seattle. Can't wait. Gonna be fun. Thank you. Yeah. Any questions? Hopefully have shown you guys enough without overloading the sockets. I've shown just maybe half the library, even at best. There's just so much here to play with. It's really fun. So please enjoy diving into it. Everyone is a different rocket trip. So that's kind of a fun. This is one that I did a YouTube video on showing how to do this to the bass. Hear how it's changing from long notes to short notes? That's because we call it dazed variables. This release is set high, and then I have over here an LFO doing release trim. Right? If I was to mute this, I'm able to set this. You can't change the envelopes by right-clicking on them this way. There's no way to modulate them, but they are available from the list in a pull-down for envelopes. And these down here actually have some cool tricks you can do to them too. I won't get into that right now, but the speed is especially cool because it's scaling the speed of the envelope. But here you have amp and filter, attack, decay, sustain, release. And there's another patch. Let me see. Let me if I can find it really quick. I have to find the bass first, probably the fastest. Let's do it this way. If I just, it's up here fairly soon. It's not that one. It's not that one. It's not that one. Hold on. Golden. It's not golden. Although that's definitely got a cool thing going on. Wait a minute. Here we go. Here's one where instead of changing the release, I'm changing the attack. So it goes from a slow wow. That's all from one bass patch. But I'm modulating the the filter attack. So if we go over here to the synth layer, and what I'm doing is I'm having it quickly fly around from being really slow, kind of in between. Funky mo mo mo. I mean, isn't that kick? I mean, it's like doing the sub frequency stuff. Another thing I want to point out, I talked about this before and I hear it a lot here. The sounds all have the mod envelope. Here's without it, without on the kick. If I take this mod envelope off, let's take a look at it. Here's without it. No high-end snaps. So now when it plays with the bass, this is flat kick. Let's turn it back on. Ready? One. Without it, just sits there. With it. And I can bring it up even higher. I want to really snap your head off, right? So mod envelope nirvana happens throughout this library to give Omnisphere an added little snap that's really nice to give character to it. Beth has a question. Yes, so that is the file. Someone's asking about the, let's see, if I go over here and I have the library, when you unzip, let's see, unzip. Inside of every Omnisphere library that you buy, yeah, thank you, there is a important to read README file, the artwork, and then this is the .omnisphere file. That's what you load into Omnisphere to load this library to work. So you would go down here to install.omnisphere by clicking the utility button. You would navigate to that .omnisphere file and select load. And after a little while, it will say, hey, I've loaded 212 multis, 543 patches, and 179 samples. And it's placed them in the appropriate cool places automatically for you. So now you can take off, you know. So that's the file that comes when you buy the library. That means you bought the library. So I sincerely thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, so enjoy. I'm going to take off. Yes, that is what you load. Otherwise, you've bought a library and you're not using it. So make sure you do that step. That's the step to get the sounds that you can then go. The important thing after you've loaded it, when you load up Omnisphere, it's set on one of the, usually number 1, right? Because this is the first patch. And if you've initialized and you're calling it just by default and you're in the factory voicing, let's start from default just for ground zero. You're here. The flying wings of love is right there. Oh, it's beautiful. Oh my gosh. Well, if you want to get to playing multis, you actually have to click the multi button. And that changes this left side. It might be hidden. There's a little checkbox right here in the newer versions of Omnisphere to open up this little side information area and browser page. And if I'm on 1, it says patch browser. And if I'm on multi, it says multi-browser. So you want to make sure you go to multi-browser, Then you click and you go down to user directories and select it. And now this list will change to show you all the contents of just this library. You could set it to all. And now it will be mixed up in the middle of all this stuff that comes with Omnisphere. There's the urban things at the end, but you have all these other things. They're the factory multis that come with Omnisphere or Keyscape. I've got both installed. But if you want, you can make it even easier by just going here and saying just the urban library or whatever library. If you've bought some libraries from me, you might have it like this, where there's a lot of libraries to choose from. So this helps. So if I wanted to see just cello stuff, I could go here. And now I'm playing just cello. So I could say, go down to the strings or something, or the pads, and have, just sounds from that library show up. So if I was to go over here and say OMG Urban, now I have all 500 patches that are in the Urban library showing up. So I can, there's my boys choir. Play with. So that's the basics of the interface. If you're on 1 through 8, this is the patch browser, and you're looking at the patch list, or you're looking at some sort of modulation list that you can close by clicking the little X, right? Click right here, and now you're back to seeing the patch browser. Multi is where you see the multi-browser. The other way to get there is from the little folder button right here. This gets you to a version way of seeing the library as well, and you can choose it from all the others. But you don't have to go here. You can just hit multi, and if this is open, you'll see everything listed right here. Off you go. Make sure you stop to get some sleep at some point. My pleasure. Thank you for joining. Yes, I don't want to miss the Frampton show. Hey, these guys, we aren't here for a long time, so they're still here kicking it. And so I want to go see him. It's a real cool chance. So be well. Thank you for your support on buying this library. It is greatly appreciated for all the business you guys do with yours truly. You have lots of choices to buy sounds these days. And so coming to my site means a lot to me. So thank you. Be well. And we'll be digging. I have a lot of support videos, and we're going to look on doing a remix of a multi this coming couple of weeks. And then once we get into September, we'll start looking at doing violin patches. So get your string programming chops out, but study these multis a little bit. It might be fun to push you guys. I want people to be more comfortable with multis. When I first started making libraries, when I first did the first, I think all the Omniverse 1, 2, 3, Omnichill, all the way up through Kid Anthem, I think. It wasn't until Airwave brought out Volume 1 of Airwave. And that was when he used the multi-mode to do just some amazing things. And since then, I've become like, I love the multi-mode and I love the power you have here. And I'm not even using everything it can do. You can go to stack mode, and these other two ways of using it besides notes are equally incredible. But multi-mode is where the power is, because now you have the ability to work with 8 different patches in lots of different ways. So I don't think there's anything wrong with encouraging everybody to get more familiar with multi-mode. So that's what we'll be doing in the next couple of weeks. All right? So be well. See you guys later.